So I wake up this morning and I see a message, and it's Access Rattblood. Are you here, Rattblood?
And then you got people like Access, and then you got people like Access, and then you got people like Access.
I'm Access fucking Rattblood.
Access Rattblood, I see. All these Access people, I'm starting to get paranoid about that now. I don't know what to do about
it. And then you got people like Access, and then you got people like Access, and then you got people like Access.
Are you here, Rattblood?
I'm Access fucking Rattblood.
Access Rattblood. Most abundant and successful king hero that we are all sitting with at this very moment. Are you willing to accept that as a truth? That you are a worthy man and that your penis is okay?
all these Access people, I'm starting to get paranoid about that now. All these Access people, I'm starting to get paranoid about that now.
Are you here, Rattblood? I'll just start throwing spells at you, conjuring demons and otherwise. Are you here, Rattblood? I'll just start throwing spells at you, conjuring demons and otherwise. Are you here, Rattblood? I'll just start throwing spells at you, conjuring demons and otherwise. Are you here, Rattblood?
Who the fuck is Access Rattblood?
I'm Access fucking Rattblood, bitch.
All these Access people, I'm starting to get paranoid about that now. I don't know what to do about it.
I'm Access fucking Rattblood. Oh, friends and enemies of YouTube, children of the Metaverse, Access. I've been on kind of a hiatus dealing with a cleansing of the mind, the subconscious mind, and finding other people's baggage in places that weren't necessarily that obvious to me. And one aspect of that is if a person is living under a delusional thought of how things are the way they think they are, but it isn't the truth. And you kind of pacify this without engaging the individual, especially if they're close to you, and you allow them to continue on with this misconception of what truly happened so that they can protect their, I guess, integrity, image, their ideal of who and what they are. Well, that weighs on you. That's them putting baggage on you, because you have now taken responsibility to participate in their delusion by not calling their delusion out. And the closer the people are to you, and the more valuable they are to you, um, the least likely they are to, the least likely you are to call them out on their bullshit. You just kind of deal with it, overlook it, ignore it, pacify it. But as long as you're going to have them in your life and you're going to perpetuate that with them in any way, then they're putting baggage off on you that you've chose to carry. And I I had to evaluate uh, how much excess baggage I was carrying that people just expected. I don't know whether I hate to even call it a courtesy because it's a discourtesy to them by allowing them to believe it and not confronting them on it. So I started cleaning that whole area up and getting rid of all this baggage that I've been carrying for other people by allowing them to just carry on in their delusional way of perception. And I had to make a decision not to do that anymore. And it costed me, but I didn't lose anything except um, baggage, unwanted baggage. You know, if they can't deal with what they've done, who they are, and they're trying to masquerade and hide the fact of who and what they are, and they're kind of dependent on you not to bring it up or confront them with it to keep some type of stable relationship or communication. Nope, nope. I had to I had to get rid of that. I also did some research and I guess presented history, indoctrination, and relevancy as applied to the Creator God and how He's represented and presented by another set of delusional people who, because of their lack of self research, endeavors, and understanding, have become just nothing more than parakeets for whatever denomination or indoctrination that they found themselves in. And as for me, I wouldn't want to have to be responsible for misleading um, more or less one person than a whole congregation or parish of people into something that wasn't true, and then have to hold responsibility for each and every individual that you misguide or you misled with this indoctrination. And I had to take a real close look at, you know, what I was truly understanding, seeing, and comprehending as far as certain indoctrinations go, and how they were affecting me. There's a point where you kind of clean the conscious mind. You can even settle the unconscious mind to a degree, until you gain some type of proficiency over it. but it's the silent mind, the quiet you that doesn't speak and isn't seen. That is the root core of your being, in a conscious state, or sometimes in other states, even the ethereal or dream state is still represented there. Uh, it could be potentially the key to actually having control over the feed filters and safety protocols of the subconscious mind. That's yet to be determined by anyone I've talked to, just because I haven't lived their experiences and they haven't lived mine. But I haven't been sitting idle without going directly into some type of inner reflection or examination to better understand the life experience. And I did a regression to the child mind to find out what kind of nasty little things I had carried over with me from a very young age that maybe seemed to be normal to my state of being, but actually were detrimental and could impede further growth if they weren't brought to the surface and recognized. And I took a very deep endeavor into that to find out what that inner child, and not just feeling the hurt, but there's a level of trauma there in certain cases, and identifying things that were being held on to by the inner child. Even though you may cleanse, heal, and come to terms with it, it still has a bearing, an identity that sticks with you, and it's kind of like doing a psychology session with the inner child to find out, how far that rabbit hole goes with you, and how deep seated some things can actually be that you may call acceptable, normal, or may not even recognize, but they're there. And that comes with a type of facing and dealing with certain truths that most won't run into until you start doing some real deep inner reflection, and you start examining the root core of your essence. And you'll find that misremembering things is one aspect of our fallibility. But to change the narrative of something, or your part in it, or how you contributed to it, to save face with people, which means credibility or image, that's that seems to be commonly overlooked and almost acceptable by society. You always want to speak the best of an individual, and generally that goes back to self too. But I don't live by those same lines. I both good and evil. I recognize both of them, and I know that I've done some pretty horrible things, and I've done some decent things. There came a time where I had to accept the truth about them, and I had to come to the understanding that you know I, if I truly know the facts of it, and I'm truly trying to recall the truth of it, then bending or swaying it in any direction other than just the factual truth of it is manipulating it, and especially when you're doing it to keep yourself from looking like the piece of shit that you really were at the time that you endeavored or embarked on, trying to communicate a situation. The fools and tools. See you. Yeah. But even though my presence wasn't here, I was still embarking and endeavoring on, cleaning my system up and trying to get myself back into a let's see, the tools and tools here. I have an excuse you can do, and it shows you how. Maybe that's not supposed to be exercise, maybe. And it shows you how to split your energy from a young child, 5 years old, the new teenage hood, 20s to 30s, and when you've been transmutated and what you want now. Most of these generational thoughts aren't by culture and society. Yeah, I found that to be true in an aspect too. What I ran across was I suffered some pretty heavy life experiences, traumatic life experiences from the age of 3 years old and various other ones throughout my life. And I managed to get some closure on that and some insight on it today. I had always just kind of overlooked the fact that my mother you with us, Dom?
Yeah, Axis. Yes. Go ahead. Carry on.
Okay. But anyhow, she had always tried to keep an image, and in doing this, she would make all the vicious and detrimental decisions that she made that had bad results on especially my life, and would cushion them and try and make herself appear as saintly as she could. And she never had any problems pointing out my iniquity, but I had to confront her on that because I couldn't carry her weight anymore, and I couldn't back her perception of what I knew was not to be a fact. And I confronted her with it and told her, I'm not going to I'm not going to sit and pad your reality for you and with you to other people for the sake of making you feel better about yourself. That's not my problem. You know, you're the one that fucked up. And if you can't take that on and responsibility for it, don't expect me to help aid you in being able to deal with it. You must first accept it. Then I'll talk to you about it and we can discuss it and maybe come to an understanding about it. But I'm not going to sit and help you cushion and lie about it so that you come out looking like you have never done anything vile, wrong, or you've never caused any problems or pain and suffering, when quite the contrary. And I thought, shit, man, all these years I've been basically co-signing her social cushion to appear harmless and helpful and saintly, when in actuality, no, that's not the truth, you know. And I had to give that up with, you know, my son, my daughter, and my mother, just for the fact that I would never be free of it as long as I co-signed for it. And I think a lot of people fall in that, especially relationships. When you get in a relationship with someone, and whether you're just dating or you get married or wherever it may go, I think a lot of baggage is pushed off on your partner that is just kind of bullshit and lies that they expect you to co-sign on and carry the weight on to keep them padded, sheltered, or safe from their own workings. And that, to me, cannot be healthy for the development of a relationship that's looking to grow in a positive manner. Because, you know, I think it isolates the couple to an individualized state of only those two can communicate at that point in time with that type of deception, and their ability to communicate with others, or that, you know, we don't talk about that in our family, or whatever, this, that, or another. Or you even catch the strange glances at dinner where they kind of look at each other, and you can tell there's a lot of shit that's not being said, but yet it's very evident that something's up. And I had to see how much of that was inside of me. You know, I wanted to see if there was people co-signing for me, if I was co-signing for others, if I was, you know, just kind of going along to get along, and had just casually let it's deception, no matter which way you look at it. And whether you're deceiving yourself or deceiving others for someone else, it's still deception. And if you want to find a pure source of you, you know, you gotta set the record straight, not only with yourself but with everybody that you're co-signing for. And if anyone has any interest in discussing this further, you know, the panel will be open for that. But as for right now, I do have a wonderful guest, Dom. He's my favorite co-signer, and it's always a pleasure and a wonderful to have you, Dom.
Hey, Access. Okay. Yeah, thanks for sharing that.
Oh, hold on, Doc.
No problem.
I don't breathe as well in this type of weather. It's really humid,
Mm.
and okay. All right, maybe I got my breath back now. Sorry about that.
No
It's
problem.
just one of the things about having a body. It is susceptible to atmospheric and weather changes. So how are you feeling tonight? I know you've got a lot of potentials that are kind of coming your way, and I was wondering how you feel about that. You feeling good about things?
I'm receptive to whatever occurs. You know, it's not really occurring to me as much as it's occurring to the people around me. But yes, it does affect me.
Yeah.
Nothing's been laid down one way or the other, so I'm very reserved on,
Well, know
one way
that
or the
any
other.
endeavor and all endeavors that concern you, I definitely send the best towards you, and definitely want the best to come out of it for everyone, no matter what the situation is. Jake, I like how you call it co-signing. I'm stealing the terms you have when he. That's fine. That's fine. I hope that it serves you well. Expectation and high standards, mental abuse. Yes, I agree with that totally. Three years old. You're a good piece of your ego. Can be parts of it. Good. We got a good chat going. Yeah, Dom, I was really digging into myself and trying to find out even the smallest idiosyncratic manipulations, or misconceptions, or even, just allowing other people to delusionalize themselves with you not pointing it out. I don't know if you've ever been in a situation where you have someone close to you that what they're saying is an absolute bunch of shit according to the way that things really happened, but you just don't say anything for the sake of getting along.
Unless you tell bigger stories, more fluffier stories, and then they know enough not to harass you on their version of your stories. But I've experienced those things, Axis.
I'd like to think that we've all, at least, experienced it to kind of know that it exists, at least. Whether you participated willingly or unwillingly, which is just kind of a autopilot reaction to conversation, especially in awkward situations. It's almost like a platitude with no substance that you just kind of shake your head and agree with and go on, when in actuality you should be like, well, actually, here's the facts, because this is what was the cause and effect. And through that form and function, this was the end result, and you were responsible for that, whether you want to admit it or not. You know, I think probably wind up in a lot more conflict as far as getting along with certain people, but I don't see that exposing the truth, especially in that arena, can be a bad thing. You know, it may be temporarily, and it may even resolve and dissolve friendship, but that's according on whether there was a friendship there or a relationship in the first place, and was it built on you being able to co-sign their bullshit.
Well, does anybody truly know what's best for each other?
Well, here's one issue that I can bring up that will allow you to know what I dealt with. I had to relinquish family members, which I don't have shit for family members to relinquish anymore, but it was necessary. When me and my health aide went over to my mom, and me and my health aide are really good friends, my mom told my health aide, you know, at 3 years old, we were discussing my childhood, and she told my health aide that, yeah, I was 3 years old when my lung got ruptured. And that's not what happened. And my health aide knew that. And we just kind of sat back and let her live that delusion for a second. And as we were leaving, the health aide said, didn't you get knocked off of a porch when you were 3 years old while your mom was sleeping, supposedly watching 3 kids, and you had a wine stem go through your back, which took out the lower lobe of your lung? I said, yeah. She said, that's not a rupture. And I said, I know. And then I started really looking into and examining how padded reality was being made on my mom, and the fact that nobody was calling her bullshit out. I realized that I was contributing and carrying baggage for her. So my in-home said, you know, she was the one that sparked this idea. She said, you know, that's no different than lying for a person. And I got to thinking about it. I thought, you know, you're right. It is no different than lying for a person.
So do we? Do we really know what's best for others, regardless of what age you're at?
Well, I'm thinking if you're watching 3 kids and they're your responsibility, and because you fell asleep and one of them winds up with a wine stem ran through their body and the neighbor has to, you know, intervene and come rescue the kid because you're asleep on the fucking couch, I'd say in the best interest of that child that maybe you should have kept your ass up and alert and paid attention to what the fuck you were doing with 3 kids. Thus, I would still have a lung.
So If we could, because that is the story that we always give each other. It's always about oneself. If we could distance ourselves long enough, did Hitler get the best advice as a child? Did Mussolini get the best advice as a child? Did Donald Trump get the best advice as a child? Once again, can we truly, in this case, be able to be accountable to give the best advice to our offsprings? For me, it's a no, a clear-cut no. But most people get caught up in spinning their wheels, making it about them, which I get. I get it. Most people are only going to be concerned about their financial wealth because it only affects them, and they'll try to resist other people by saying, "Well, you're too rich," and vice versa. "Well, you didn't suffer as much as me." Again, once we realize that, then our parents, our providers, our governments are just as feeble as us. Now, if we want to make it really truly personal about oneself, as one actually mislead oneself, the way they eat, what they do, how they talk, takes a lot of humbleness in that particular conversation, because it no longer becomes about others. Now, if a person wants to drag on what happened in the past, that still affects them now, so be it. But again, at that point, we're complaining about the bus driver from a previous bus driver that didn't stop for us, but the next bus driver has to hear the story.
Right. I understand that. It's just
But you're sharing.
I can't co-sign her lie that she uses to try and keep herself dignantly in social graces and
So
to hide her problems. I'm not going to co-sign on that. No.
Okay, so her lies from somebody else's perception could be spoken from her mouth as her truth. How does that serve? The person that's telling somebody else it's a lie.
Well, to her, she's going to be lost in whatever she believes.
Put her aside. It's the person that's speaking at that point. I think that person is deceiving themselves. How does that serve the one that's speaking? Forget about the other person. Oh, I think I'm trying to help them once again. Do we truly help each other, or do we actually just kind of enable the situation? I get it when we're young and we hope the best that communities of past have helped. So whoever's raising us got raised somewhat healthy, but that's always up for conversation. Meaning that who's to say the way I'm living is any better than somebody else that says, I learned the hard knocks of life. What's the hard knocks of life then? Being born poor, being born rich, and I have to follow all these traditional customs and all that. If we're truly trying to be aware while we're here, but what we're doing more times than not, Axis, is giving many stories. And when I say that, I'm just basically saying whatever I hear somebody else is a story. It could be what they call reality, what they've experienced, but it's still a story from the other person's, what they hear and how they see it. Again, how does it serve? At that particular moment, how does it serve? Now, for some people, it serves in the form of it's their drama. They make a buck off of it. They have somebody to blame. Some people can say it serves me to thinking now I can forgive them. Okay. Forgive, forget, whatever.
Well, for me,
Mm-hmm.
as close as my mother is, it identifies her as, which I already know is a liar, at other people's expense, mine. She's going to do whatever it takes to preserve her character. So it's a defense thing, and as far as, her misleading people into believing something so that she looks good and doesn't have to admit to her fallacies and her, her shortcomings, I'm not going to co-sign that. So for me, it's a freedom of saying, no, I'm not going to continue perpetuating your beliefs and your lies. And the other part of it is I know that she will outright straight fucking lie now to even strangers, that guest in their house, in her house, you know. So I
Then
can only see her as being a delusional liar now that I cannot give her a sign off on. No. So it's a
but that's her
survival thing
story.
for me.
But isn't that her story? And if she
Yeah, it's
probably
hers.
had, go ahead.
No, I'm just saying, yeah, it's hers. It's hers. Her
It's
story.
her, it's her story. And that story, from her perception, could be many things. And she could probably have somebody else that's going to hear her and say, oh, that's interesting. So why are you talking about your son over and over again? Well, I think my son doesn't understand me, or my son's lying. Would that not be the same story that she can be given?
It is until it comes to proof, you know. But I don't care. She's always talked, you know, miserable and down unless I, you know, was subservient to her in some way. And this was just another way that I've seen that my son, my mom, and other family members had been dependent on me, um, not challenging what I knew was fact. And they knew they were lying, and they depended on the people in their local environment not to challenge that lie to other people.
But
And
isn't
to me,
that,
that's carrying their baggage.
it can be, but it's not when somebody says a lie, the same person that says they're telling the truth. It's a story. Now we can change the characters. Let's drop your mom out of this equation. Let's say the people
Okay.
that were in the people that were in the music industry that you work for, or the person that you live in a country that runs the country. They're not actually trying to hold them down to be accountable. What do you think they're going to say? Even though a lot of people could say, I think he's deceiving us. I think the industry is kind of corrupt. Obviously, for most of us, whether they're aware or not, there must be something in it for the person calling somebody else or something else the truth or a lie, a deception, indifference. How does it serve? This has nothing to do with other people.
Well,
Because we can find. Go ahead.
for me, it's just a part of getting rid of any type of layers of dishonesty that I've overlooked or missed, so that at least I come across as factual and truthful as I possibly can.
Okay, so now
So
you find out the person that's in the immediate community, in this case, immediate family member, is I'm no longer going to deal with them. What about the other billions that are out here? Now, somebody could turn and say, well, that's of no concern. I said, then why would anybody else make it of any other concern about your story then? That's the deception we live from within. Either it's all or nothing. So if it's about your mother, I'm just using as an example, Axis, then can we make it about everybody else? Now I get
well,
it.
sure you can.
You have to live with it. You got to tolerate it, but that could make us stronger. No different, people that are born in wealthy families and they like their cake, but they don't they like to eat it, but maybe they don't like to prepare their cakes. They're under some sort of an allowance. Okay, that's the game that they play. They have to understand when you play the game, there's going to be many rules. They're not always going to tell you all the rules that initially, and some of those rules shift. But once we call somebody else a liar, then we have to really truly understand, how can I truly understand another person unless I've been the liar the whole time? So
Right.
when
I'm
people
not
talk
claiming to
about,
be no damn saint. I'm just doing some self-discovery and cleaning out nooks and crevices.
well, I'm trying to help you out because I know you can articulate it, Axis, and you'll twist it and you'll see both the negative and positive, the black and white and all of that. Where most people would probably get very defensive and then make it about me. I know you're not going to make it about me, so that's why I can share this. So
Yeah,
because for
no,
me,
it's just a state of finding out, how deep I've deceived myself with myself and other people, and the parts of me that should be examined, because no matter how 100% factual and truthful you want to be, you're going off of either written documentation or memory. And both of those can be fallible until it comes to things like adoption and death certificates and hospital stays. Those things are pretty evident. But I wanted to get down to, not only the fact that, I want to eliminate that deception out of me, but I don't want to carry it for other people either. And that's just what I was working on, was just trying to eliminate the nooks and crannies and crevices to be able to find that place of self-honesty. I mean, brutal, raw, unadulterated, no excuses, honesty.
Well, honest with yourself is challenging for most.
It's hard.
It can be hard. It can be. I won't deny it can be hard, but it's mostly challenging because most people aren't prepared to do it. They'll allow the self to lead, opposed to, no, I want to be honest with you, the self. What are you? I'll be honest with the program. I don't want the program to be honest with me. I want to be honest with the program. So, again, unless we start layering it and say, okay, well, my parents, were they carefree? Were they ignorant? Were they naive? Were they over-dominating? Are they asking me to fulfill their every failments in life or their own pursuits? Or are they just mimicking and parroting what they're hearing in the media? So therefore, all their kids should be doing this, and then they're not find out that the child has a different kind of skill set, and then they don't know how to support them. So some people can finance them, but they don't know how to support them. Then the question will be, were they able to support themselves? It's a web. And then when we start seeing each other as adults, or we start labeling people, well, you were my parents. Well, sometimes you give that notoriety when they're actually acting like a parent, opposed to saying, well, by biology, you're my parents, or you're my boss. No, are you really my boss? You can only be my boss if I truly understand how to be my own boss. Again, these are very simplistic inquiries for oneself, but the challenging part is, how do I apply it, or how do I actually put that now with this other program that's been running the whole time that's never been challenged? But yet we want to throw other people on the plank by saying, well, we want to challenge them. That doesn't serve. And that's why some people, they wish they could unbury their parents in the grave. Why? Because they're still mad at them. I said, no, you know who you're really mad at? Yourself. You might even be disappointed with oneself. Not to take away what you're saying, Axis, because you have to be in that presence. And yes, there are some people, they truly will lie. That's usually out of preservation. It's like, hey, I really don't want to kill that animal, but, I know I should honorably kill it, but I'm really hungry, so I'm just going to stab it a couple of times. Now I'll deal with that later. And sometimes people never deal with that. And then we see a lot of people acting out in what we call these communities. That's all they're doing. They're acting out. But what they're also doing is trying to defend their position.
That's true. That is, they do go head to head to defend their position and their stance, their beliefs, or their ideals, and they go to bizarre extremes on panels to try and get that across.
But yet they want somebody else to bow down on their position. I said, you're only going to be attracted to see yourself, because to actually be attracted to the opposite of you, meaning that there's another part of you that you're failing to see, that's going to be very challenging for other people, because the other people, they're already clicking their foot in and said, no, I'm not going to change. But yet you want somebody else to change. Well, that's not what I'm saying. Well, what are you saying when you tell somebody else that they're lying or telling the truth? Especially when somebody else says, I don't even play with those words. I'm just speaking for myself at that point. I don't play with those words. And if I am, I'm going to say, So if I'm going to say the word truth, then I'm going to have to understand what the deception is too. You can't have your cake and throw everything else out. This is how people still play that game. I want to be positive, but want nothing to do with negative, until they meet a character like you or me, where I'll play with them both, because I realize that's not who I am. And those are just polarities. They're not realized there's even more than that. Give a person the ideal half full, half empty, and then they pick a side. I said, how interesting. I gave you two sides and you decided to make yourself a single-sided. I was hoping that you'd realize there's more things beyond the glass half full, half empty. You're going to ask me all kinds of questions. Now, can I talk about the table? Sure, you can. Can I talk about the painting? Sure, you can. Can I ask you even why you asked me the question? Sure, you can. But most people are revealing it's all about me. Well, he asked me, so I better give him the right answer. Whoever says this is about an answer. That's the game that most people play. Christian, Muslims, capitalism, communism, earth flat, globalists. Do you see they give the two parameters and they don't even have to give. That could just be something the program keeps running. And then the rest of us do to each other. We're like all kernels attacking each other. Yum, yum, yum. I want more of this. Opposed to ever stepping out long enough to be the observer and say, it's a game I no longer want to participate, or I want to participate in more now as the observer. Well done, Don. You just graduated from one little simple fucking 0.01 to 0.02. Now, I'm putting that out, Axel, because you brought a very interesting topic, and a lot of people don't talk about this stuff. And when they do, they go on and on and on. And at that point, you have to buy them crazy glue because now they got to bond with other people. As opposed to, are you truly challenging oneself, not others? Most people will try to go into this hide mentality, giving each other pleasantry. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry too. Yeah, my mom was the same way. So was my dad. Oh, my boss is terrible. Oh, my goodness, all our governments, they're pathetic. The Illuminati's are running the world. Like, those are stories. The fact that I can actually say all of this, I already know I'm acting. Most people just don't realize how much they're unaware that they're acting. How important is it? Well, I don't know, Tom, I've never faced death. So then how important is this then? It's not. So then you should be able to play with it now. Most people think just because it's not important, then I should just make it go on the drop side. No, that is when you start playing. How important is it to vote? Not at all. So now you're able to understand the system, play with it now. Opposed to, well, I got to pick a side first. I said, well, now you've picked a side. Now, how the hell can you play now when you've already picked a side? She's evil. Well, then what's evil? And who is she? She seems like an old lady from an outside person. She's an alien lady. Yeah, but she's conniving. Is she like Hitler? Is she like Mussolini? Is she like Stalin? Because even that, I don't even know who those characters are. These are the stories that we give each other. Well, we should be like Jesus. Well, who's Jesus? Well, in the Bible, who wrote the Bible? Yeah.
Another endeavor that has been at the forefront is I have an uncanny way of being able to see the metaphors and the parables and mathematics, and also the things that people accept, and the first thing out of their mouth should be a question and not just acceptance. And when you start truly endeavoring into, I don't care what philosophy or religion, when you start going into it and you start learning it for yourself and not what others teach you or what you're being tossed as to be this belief system's protocol, a lot of things will become very self-evident to anyone who reads without bias and looks at what it is for what it is. And I had to do that here recently with just as an assistant, a sounding board for someone so close to me. And I thought that was interesting. Smoking in G sharp, good to have you. But yeah, I just I had an issue with something that they were convicted by, and I asked them. I said, when you get a new dog, at your level of comprehension and understanding, do you set things out when you leave the house that you don't want that dog to get into? And she said, no. I said, well, do you think that whatever stuck us in the Garden of Eden was that stupid? Here's a new creation. Now don't eat from that tree. And left it exposed and vulnerable, along with the tree of life. And, I'm supposed to look at that as a superior intelligence when even a common human knows, a new creation or a new dog, either one, you put them in your house or your backyard or your garden, well, expect everything to get nibbled on and possibly chewed up or violated. It isn't until you condition that creation or that animal not to do that you'll start getting results.
So a parent tells their child, or one of them anyway, same concept of the Garden of Eden. Son, please don't smoke this cigarette that I smoke regularly. Why? Because son, you'll become like me. So people just assume whatever was in the garden, that could have been another fallen being. And it just said, listen, don't be like us. Why? Because I formed you on the 7th day. On the 6th day, we fell. So we are forming you and hoping that you can exceed past us. But you didn't. When most kids will turn around and say, well, hey, talking to my buddies and don't listen to your dad. And who's he to tell us anyway? He smokes anyway. Yeah, but he's trying to tell me not to be like me, or at least ask me questions. Son, I smoke. I can't break it. It's no good for my lungs. I'll probably die sooner than I should, or I'm not going to live healthy. That's just part of growing up. But most people would turn around and say, but you got to be perfect. I said, well then, son, you know something? If I'm so perfect, then why the fuck did I create you? Again, these are stories that people give each other. And when you have a story, you should be able to make even more stories, unless you think there's a right or wrong. And that's where people narrow themselves. The play has many scripts, and this is the way I want you to read it. But you're allowed to express it different ways if you want. You can do the high pitch, low pitch, sadness, happiness. But I just want you to read this word. How you want to say it, that's on to you. Well, I don't want to say the word. I said, now you just show me disobedience. Why? Well, who gave you the lungs? I'm just asking you to say one word, but I'm giving you the flexibility. Well, I don't want to be told what to do. Well, then why don't you create your own little fucking world? But wait a second, you already are in your own little world within oneself, but you think you're outside. I've even left you breadcrumbs. Eye of beholders, Plato's cave. Well, Dom, I don't really understand what that means. Really? You don't understand what the eye of the beholder means? Interesting. What about the Plato's cave? I don't. At that point, what do you do with them access? You hope to get rebooted. Why? Because they haven't done nothing. I was going to say, they haven't done nothing to show that they should move forward. This is not like schooling system, even though it's an indoctrination. They're pretty stupid. We can't get them to be programmed. But you know something? We'll just move them to grade 1. No, they didn't do nothing to deserve it. So back to kindergarten they go. Over and over and over again. Well,
yeah,
go ahead. Go ahead.
No, you're not finished. Please. I want to make sure. It goes back to
we're even been programmed to multiply ourselves, and we think that's a big responsibility. I'm like, fuck, you didn't teach your kids how to breathe, so what the fuck did you do? You taught them fuck all. You haven't even taught your kids once they eat their food, let alone, most of us don't even teach our kids how to go hunting and how to actually grow plants and all that and follow the sun and the moon, or at least go to a wise person that can give us that information. We don't even teach them even the stuff that we've forgotten about. Well, who does the processing in your body? Well, I don't know. So then you're all fucking at that point moronic. And the fact that the languages are being given to you, fucking you've got two of everything except for a heart. But people trip over their own fucking thoughts. But then even that, are they even our thoughts? Because if they're mine, then I have to explain myself. Well, then why am I only speaking English? Why did I create English only for me to play with? Then how did all this other technology come to be? It just showed up. Wi-Fi showed up. Cars showed up. But typically, like the metaphor, you're the frog in the water, not seeing everything else is changing on you on a constant basis. But what most people do, and that's even constant do, is fucking bitching and complain. I don't want to be here. Where's here? Where's there? That's an inquiry for each individual person. And if they can come to peace with that silence, then and only then you can be the student. There's such things as even the concept. I'm playing with words now when I'm saying student. Could even be your maker. Could even be the devil. The devil, yeah, I like to play with humans. Why? They're a bunch of fucking stupid species. Why'd you create them? Whoever said I created them. Anyway, sorry, that's way too long on that one.
Oh, no, that's all right. The only reason I found myself in that type of conversation was because, and I do call her friend, was holding firm to indoctrination and spinning her wheels unmercifully, trying to get forward momentum, and doing this without a firm grasp on, the whole experience of the ideal that there are metaphors, and not everybody's going to be honest with you. As a matter of fact, you're going to be lied to, and church is a business. And once I started explaining all this and showing her various parables and facts that were very self-evident, she was able to get a firmer perspective on what she was endeavoring in. And now she's putting the pieces together for herself instead of being spoon-fed. She's really, starting to examine for herself even her personal movements, how she interacts, how she allows others to interact with her, and she's starting to monitor her being and how it interacts with this particular realm and the occupants of it. Whereas before, she just was on autopilot.
Mm-hmm. And she'd be in good company at that point, being an autopilot. Again, actually, I can only say this out loud and hope that maybe people can find fellow tribes. How many people are truly honest with themselves? That's just the question. Because if they're truly honest with themselves, then and only you can actually start talking about why aren't those people honest with me? The norm, whatever people want to call it, the senses is the comforts of knowing that the herd mentality are the ones that aren't honest with themselves. And they'll fling words around like, oh, he's lying, he's deceiving, I know the truth, I know God. Those are the ones that aren't honest with themselves. Because then why do you need to say those things? Why do you need to defend it? Why do you need to justify it? And to wake somebody else when they're in the norm, and that's a lot of them, could actually be a punishment to them. I know this for me. It's a punishment for me, Axis. Because when I hear people talking about anybody but themselves, I'm like, that's fucking noise. But I got to play the game. So I play generalization game. Because if I start making it about me, not on a platform, a lot of people might have a difficult time fucking being in my presence. Well, Dominic, fuck, you're hard on yourself. I can't even be in your presence. Well, okay, that's nice. So then what have you been doing then? Have you truly revolted from within? No, I just want to leave this fucking place. Where's this place you're talking about? You want to leave with your vessel? Now we're talking like fucking Christians. Well, when you die, you're going to heaven. What, do you go with the vessel? Oh, well, I'm a Muslim. When I die, I get 7 virgins. So what are you really saying about fucking women at that point? And they're virgins to boot? But who's giving you these fucking stories? I'm not saying that they're totally wacko, but who's giving you that story? Well, Dom, I read it in a book. Well, who wrote the book? Who's the author? Well, he's dead. Oh, okay. So he's dead. So you're going to call that factual? What do you mean? I said, did you experience that? No. Did you observe it? No. So then why the fuck are you telling me it's factual? Well, Dom, no. Don't make it about Dom. Do you question yourself? The shit that goes through your fucking heads, the shit that you're saying to defend yourself and attack somebody else, you're wasting a lot of fucking energy. And how old are you? 70 years old? You're 30 years old? You wasted a lot of fucking time because you're not even the fucking age that you talk about. But Dominic, I know Jesus, you got to fuck off. You don't got a fucking clue what's going on. Well, the astrology. And what does the astrology do for you? Do you understand the alignments? Do you even know how your vessel works? Do you understand how each part fucking is attached to all of that? Well, Dominic, I wouldn't know that. I said, but you're quick to fucking defend yourself. So how can they be honest with themselves when they're too busy defending themselves or attacking others? That's like playing basketball with a fucking child that's 2 years old and I'm fucking Michael Jordan. How do you think that outcome's going to look like? My question would be more to Michael Jordan than to fucking the parents that's going to bring the child to play basketball with them. If they're truly trying to grow. But most people don't realize how much they're stunted and they quickly get triggered with their feelings. I say, okay, they're just telling you that you're not developed in that area. Well, Dom, I got a university, so you're not even developed mentally. Why? Why the fuck would you tell me you went to university? Because that's more herd mentality. I feel comfortable knowing that I'm fucking an NPC with everybody else. That's a term, no different saying I'm awoke. Those are terms. How does it serve? I'm not even saying how does it serve me. I'm talking about how does it serve? I'm putting that out in the universe. But for most people, you'll know it doesn't serve me. I said, yeah, I already knew you were self-absorbed. You're an easy fucking energy to read. But hey, dare not me say that. Don't make it about me. I'm like, how funny a self-absorbed person when they finally the first fucking time in their existence gets challenged. Shouldn't have been on my part. Should be on their own fucking part. They'll quickly make it about somebody else. That's a child talking at that point. And when I say child, I'm talking about they're not developed in their 7 to 14 years old fucking development years. I don't give a shit how many fucking books they've read. Righteous anger towards oneself. Forget about righteous anger towards what? I don't like the way the government's having. What the fuck? You don't got a fucking clue. That system's been set up a long time ago. And it's been set up by your forefathers and the same fucking people that are here today.
It's true, there isn't much that's changed as far as the procedure. I mean, maybe generations have passed and we've developed a lot more technology, but it's still the same power struggle.
It'd be different if all of us were participating in it. So
well, that, man. Yeah, there's so much to examine on that, especially here in the States at this point in time. We're dealing with a whole new, for this generation. I mean, my forefathers dealt with it, and I got to see years later how that turned out for them. And I'm watching a kind of a round 2, but with a diversity, almost like the Scots, the English, the Germans, all coming over here with diverse beliefs, ideals, and concepts on people who were already pre-established and settled, and and that's happening for once again, and it's becoming, it's starting to show its negative effect pretty heavy. And that's just setting up a new social class, And not only is it a social class, but it's mass diverse belief systems, mass diverse cultures, mass diverse intent, and all of them struggling for the same thing. And some of them just straight up abusing and taking advantage of not only the opportunity that's been given to them, but allowing their criminal nature to flourish and just run rampant across the state. It's gotten pretty bad down here in certain places. So I see a whole new class of people coming in, and I think at last count it was 25 million. That's a lot of people.
So I missed that last part. What's 25 million access?
25 million immigrants as today. That's what they're telling us. They come across there. The actual number, who knows? I don't know. I'm not counting heads, but they say it's around 25 million. And every one of them wanting the same thing, but their way. And
Well, population.
Show.
I was going to say migrations always occurred. It's just being presented because a lot of people now have technology that's constantly on them. They don't have to, when do I hear any kind of information being propagated by the media? I got to turn on the radio. I got to go home and turn on my TV. So now everybody's walking with devices. What a better way of indoctrinating people. We'll even give them online stuff. So we can actually watch them and just fucking them go on, blah, 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 blah. We'll even legalize fucking marijuana. Let it go on and on and on and on. Again,
they're equipping them with a budget card and a cell phone. So as they come across the border, they're getting a card and a cell phone. I'm sure there's a reason for that, pretty obvious. But what I am personally concerned about is whether it be propaganda or whether it's fact, the level of rape, juvenile rape, and murder that's being conducted by our new guest.
Okay, so let's go that axis because you're probably more concerned than the masses. What do you think the masses are going to do with that information? Rapes always occurred. People that have been abused, women have always been abused. That has not changed. So that's not really about, immigrants. That's just human behavior. So how's that going to change? And this because people redirect and say, well, it's those folks doing all the abuse. I said, what about these folks that have been here the whole time doing the same fucking shit? How does that change? Especially when we start talking about borders. That's not something we create. Those are things that we enforce by saying this kind of shit. Well, those folks, those are immigrants. Really? So what are you, first, second, maybe third fucking generation American or Canadian? Is that? So what were your forefathers? And why did you leave your fucking country in the first place? To come over here. There's a land of opportunity. Okay, so The people that are here did fuck all when it comes to telling the governments, no, you can make whatever rules you want, but we're not going to move out of our communities, and we're not going to be selling our houses for an enormous amount of money. Because what that does, that sets it up for the next generation. This is the domino effect. Most people don't realize you're the frog in the water, complaining about other people that have been disheveled somewhere else. What about the underground market that's been going on in all these major countries? That's just always been going on. They're the ones that give us the cliche. And when I say they, I'm talking about people that are focus groups that get paid money. And they turn around and say, yeah, we'll just tell them, we'll use the word immigrant. Why? Because we're not aware, because another group has to understand what we've done such a good job depopulating. So we got to give the illusion that America, has the population going. And at the same time, we got to make sure people don't really see the fact that America's broke. So we need cheaper labor now. Because you people that want to live high on the hog, we've been raising your price of your houses slowly, your taxes slowly, your food slowly, your car. Get the fuck, slap them all across the fucking head. A bullet for every person. Be done with it. The reason why I say that, because at least you can find out who's truly honest with themselves.
Right. I'm not denying that there's been, a human atrocity that was here way before our guests come across the border.
Sure.
That's a given. But the ones that's why I said, is it some type of, is there an agenda to them reporting on this in mass to create that turmoil and division between, those that are consider themselves citizens of this country and the ones that are yet to be, or, are guests? Or, is it propaganda, or is those numbers that they're correlating here and relaying to me actually true? Because if they're true, then that means that, young teenage girls and even preteen girls, the chances of them being brutally raped and killed is just increased massively.
Again, Axis, I'm going to play with the idea that this is one of these fairy tale stories that America and all these other countries are living the way they are, and it's their own countries, and they're supplementing themselves. If that was the case, if America kept everything within, the prices of everything in America would have been fucking triple or quadruple by now. But the fact that they go to other countries, use their resources, and then they have military people that go to other fucking countries, but yet the Americans are worrying about fucking immigrants, that is oxymoron at best. It'd be different if a person says, well, Dom, you're right. The Americans, pieces of shit that most of them are unaware. And this is any fucking country, so I'm not being fucking just racist to one. I'm talking about all of us. Okay, so you Americans, we're building all this stuff in all these other countries where we have to be forced with your fucking currency. And at the same time, you have all your military fucking bases in all our fucking countries. You're an unwelcome fucking piece of shit. Now, the thing is, it's not the Americans that's ruling this. This is the German nation that's playing that fucking game. So the American doesn't even belong to fucking them. So when you hear them talking about immigrants, Axis, if you believe that shit, slap yourself in the back of the fucking head.
Right. To me, it's all universal life and earthlings, and I don't believe in their borders anyhow. I don't sway that way.
I know you
But
don't, but I said that.
whenever my cattle, and I noticed that I've got 25 head of cattle, and suddenly there's 15 or 20 bulls that I didn't let my pasture show up, and the diversity of that starts to sway for me locally. I'm not talking on what the government has in store or what they don't have anymore. I'm just talking in my backyard. It has nothing to do with the whole. It's just my backyard is what I'm concerned about. I have interest in my own backyard.
But is it your backyard?
Plus the one I'm occupying at the moment.
Okay. Again, if me and you weren't on technology and we're deep into the forest or jungle, we can have that conversation. But the fact that we're using the internet, there's probably a street where you live and where I live. There's probably telephone poles where we live. It's not ours anymore.
No, it's not. It never was mine.
Now, if it was a community, I'd be okay. Well, we're all working together. Access is down the street. He has his cattle. I got my chickens over there. We're going to make sure that we keep other populations at bay, such as the wolves and all that, or we built all that kind of stuff. But that's not the case. We're a bunch of fucking puppy mills pretending, well, this is mine. I said, no, you pay property tax. You fucking using somebody else's device. You're using somebody else's medicine. So at that point, the word mine doesn't exist anymore. The concept of independent doesn't exist anymore. We're not even interdependent with each other anymore. We're so fucking dependent. We're worse off as adults than we were when we were children.
I took those measurements away, Dom.
You have taxes, but you're the few. That's what I'm going with that accident.
I know. I just wanted to let you know my possessions aren't the measure of me. I know that they're not mine. They come and go just as easy as, the day to night. And I've come down to the understanding that, it's just me inside of this body. And I'm on a journey of some really serious self-discovery that I'm trying to share with people who may go on that journey or may not. But you relinquish everything. I understand now a little bit more about, the ideal, and I don't want to throw Jesus out there as being something that I follow or, condone, but the fact that he just went around everywhere without claiming a shitload of possessions of this, that, or another. And he was like, just a vagabond, and whatever he had, may tomorrow provide what tomorrow needs. I can really appreciate that now. And I can appreciate the fact that deburdening yourself of claiming ownership to things, that's a freeing thing. And I hope that others discover that,
Well, part of our issue as a species, we're so playing the me, and you keep your enemies closer because most people don't really give a shit about other people's egos. So unless a person can humble that ego and then make it anything else than about themselves, we're doomed to continue doing this shit over and over again. And you're going to get small pockets of people that are going to talk about, I bettered myself. I said, the fact that it's all about you, I said, fucking serve the rest of us.
Well, better yourself for what? I mean, I'm bettering myself to eliminate, such things as being an inconvenience to people, utilizing myself as a more understood creation and consciousness, and developing an understanding of even the language of creation, or the fact that, once you start becoming more aware of what you are, the silent you, the you that never speaks, that true part of you that lies underneath the subconscious. Once you start entertaining that and what comes with it, you start shedding everything, Dom. Nothing really holds. You enjoy things. Sure, I enjoy having a fork. That's a luxury to me, to be able to eat food. Doesn't mean I own that fork. Doesn't mean it can't be taken away. Doesn't mean I may have to use my hands. But the luxury of that fork, I can appreciate that fork. But that fork is not the only means to an end. It's actually a convenience. As opposed to the chopsticks, which are something much easier to create than a fork.
And those things do serve. Even if you become attached to them, it still does serve.
Yeah.
You know, serve, I could just turn around and use a different word. What did you learn from it? What did you learn knowing that you can use chopsticks, or now you learn that you can actually, you know, eat with your hands off a banana leaf, you know, or, you know, I don't become attached to going to fast food. I said, so what did you learn from it? Everything has a learning to it, you know, but it's when we start labeling things, well, that's bad. I said, it might be bad in that moment, but what about the next moment? So what did you learn from that? Well, now I might use the word bad.
The most efficient way to feed myself.
It can be at that moment, yeah, until you realize I have to do a different way. Why? I lost a finger the other day. Now I got to figure out a different way how to eat now, which is fine. You know.
Adaptability, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Now, for some of us, you know, can't speak for myself, but for a lot of people, there's a good chance what they're disgruntled is because we have technology, they're not getting their piece of the pie. You know, in the old, you know, in other times or other cultures, you would not know what other people are doing from their far lands. So you wouldn't be envious or jealous or wanting, in this case, lacking things. But once you introduce all that, you're going to have people that aren't going to know their place anymore. Are you willing to earn that and maintain it and share that with others? Not really. I said, that's why you haven't been gifted it. And if you do, and you're not gifted, then you're just manipulating the system, which is fine. Again, you can learn something, but when you manipulate the system, it's always fun when people complain about, you know, certain groups of people manipulating the food, but isn't everything being manipulated? Isn't our environment being manipulated with Wi-Fi? Or driving with cars or trains or boats? You know, and it's always that secure person that wants to talk about Jesus or God to justify what we're doing or not doing as a collective. Hey, that's fine. You believe in a God. Go ahead.
This whole species is just a massive mess of shit for genetics, spliced genetics, manipulated elements, environment. I mean, there's no, you know, that's just a given now. To my notion is, I don't think there's anything that this species is going to encounter that they're not going to try and, you know, tamper with.
What about, let's say, I'm going to play with words here, the gods. They figured, well, humans aren't ready for shit. Why? They're still at that stage. They're fighting with each other. They're still trying to worship or denounce some unknown thing. We work as one, as gods. So then we work together to manipulate things. When we're here in these forms, do we really work together? No, I'm not participating in making the Wi-Fi. I'm using it. Same with the cars. So until we get to that point, I'm speculating when I'm thinking I'm assuming what the God is, because I'm going to always, anytime I use the word God, I'm always thinking fucking speaking in vain. So, but let's say whatever created all of this, there was a harmony. That means maybe the species themselves were in harmony. Where us, we're not in harmony. We got people being in wars or signing up in military because why? Because it pays more opposed to being a farmer? What's more important, your needs or to steal from your neighbor? Well, I'm not stealing from a neighbor. Shooting another human being is stealing from them. And I don't give a shit what ism you're going to hide behind, or religion or state. Now, that's my view. I'm not here to write a book because there's already too fucking many books out there anyway. I think they should be all burnt anyway. Why? Because then we have to start thinking. You know, it's like, what do you mean I got to think? Yeah, either you got to think or you have to start downloading information. Yeah, but I like my books. What? Why? Why should I get all my information? That's how people have the story of Jesus, because it was written. But did he ever write anything? Who is this character you're talking about? Is he like a soccer team? Is he like Alexander? Is he Joan of Arc? How the fuck does it serve me to know his name? It doesn't. Why? Because I value the message. What is the message? Love thy neighbor. Okay, so what does it mean to love thy neighbor when there's a whole bunch of guns in the world? Or other people aren't participating, helping a poor person? and even that to find out why are they poor, let alone try to understand why somebody else is rich. Well, that's too much information, Dom. Really? Or you just don't put any fucking effort whatsoever. You're too busy stuck your head in that fucking book, or you're too busy fucking using a calculator. In this case, we're behind this scroll called iPad, computer, or phone. I'm doing it, but am I doing it consciously? Am I doing it with a little bit, I should be more mad at myself than ever anybody else? Or even be happy for myself. But those are all fleeting emotions. You know, but most people want to be like a crack addict underneath the fucking bridge. I want to fucking snort my happiness. More of that. Oh, fuck, that was great. So how long is that going to last? Because that's just a moment. But if I can control it, I said, what fucking moronic parent ever told you can control anything? Give me a name. Are they fucking buried? Oh, no, you're a parent. So you think you can control. So then, do you go to sleep? What do you mean? I said, if you think you have to control everything, or at least control quite a bit of stuff, I'm surprised you go to sleep. Why? Because there's something that's been running that vessel the whole fucking time. And it's not your waking state little fucking piece of shit ego. Now, I just use a little bit harsh word because this is what wakes me up a little bit. Where other people, they want to sell pleasantries. Oh, I want to go to God, because I know the truth. I know Jesus. Get the fuck out of here with that fucking noise. But you don't understand. No. Go ahead, sorry.
I went up against a very indoctrinated situation, a person that was indoctrinated, and I had to give them a grasp of understanding about this place. And that was a pretty intense revealing, because they didn't know where they were at. And when I showed them with their belief system, which happened to be Christianity, where they were at, well, they didn't like it, but they couldn't argue it, and they had to confront it, and they managed to get past that too. So, like I said, this person is really developing well, Dom. I'm impressed. Once it became solidified and they understood it, they didn't contend with it. They examined it for themselves, took some time, analyzed it, and come back and said, "You're right." And I went, "Now let's move on to the next thing." And it serves them pretty well. They were able to move forward in their development instead of staying caught up and stagnant in something that they didn't understand in the first place and has now been revealed to them for what it is. So I know it's possible for other people to utilize at least some of what, like, you or I have to say to forward movement and their development, because I've been witnessing it and I've been engaged in it.
You've put a lot of effort at Access. You've learned a lot of teachings and all that. So yeah, so you've allowed yourself to be your own student, and you've had other people assist you. So you're just going to pass that forward. So, and hopefully that person, they can do the same thing. Sometimes passing it forward is when you become the better student, because now you're learning as you're trying to share with others some of the stumbling blocks that one couldn't see when they were going through it.
I believe they had the potential to surpass me, and I believe that they have the potential to be a great contribution to this world instead of another consuming, mindless seeker. I truly believe that this person has the presence about them to be a benefit.
Mhm.
That's why I'm endeavoring.
Well, there's always more resources that could be offered to that next person or individual, probably more individual. Ages play a role in it. You know, there's certain things that people do as much as they can in one particular age, but there's a lack of movement or acceleration, and then all of a sudden they pass it on to their offsprings or somebody else that is wanting to have the apprenticeship, and then they just happen to be fortunate to be in a certain age where there's more of an acceleration. Again, if this, you understand the ideal of the solar and the lunar signs in the skies and all the other ones. So, and there's just some things, no matter how much we want to share, there's other energies that they're doing their thing. I don't think they're, denying people of information, but at the same time, it doesn't really aid some people. Again, it's not one shoe fits all kind of ideal when we're trying to share information,
Right. The true common nature that I've seen is like an apple tree. That an apple tree can feed many a diverse type people and benefit them. And that's kind of the fruit of knowledge is if it's truly good knowledge, then it's probably going to benefit everybody, such as an apple tree or an orange tree or something that pretty much everybody can partake in as food. Knowledge is no different than food.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that's where I'm kind of took that step back, cleaned the slate, and went, okay, what kind of tree am I? I think it's at this point in time, Dom, what kind of filter am I? Obviously, I'm a receiver, I'm a transmitter, and that information in between reception and transmission has to be interpreted, and what kind of filter am I? Am I noise, or am I the production of beneficial fruit of knowledge that people can pluck and go on and utilize for themselves? But I can't teach them to eat the fruit. I can only present it.
Mm-hmm. And then you'll get the ones that will probably inquire a little bit more. Is it when I eat the fruit? It's where I eat the food, and what type of fruit it is. Again, for the ones that are just becoming aware, this is what knowledge presents them. To be honest with oneself, now you're going a little bit towards the other tree. You need a little bit of understanding. You need a little bit of a discernment in between to know the difference. Knowledge is very limiting, but it does serve. But for knowledge at this point, because most people are caught up in belief system, at least it serves you to go beyond belief systems. So a person can know of somebody or heard of somebody, that's a belief system. But if you get to know them, okay, what do you understand? Not about understanding them. What do you understand when you hear another person? How does it serve? Then you have to use discernment, wisdom. But for most people, they're caught up in knowledge. So, hey, I know there's a computer. So, but how did it come to be? That I don't know, Dom. And hear the word, I don't know. But let's say you do know. Let's just say, how would you apply discernment to it? How would you want to know more about it? Do you want to engage awareness? And most people don't access. That's the sad reality. The fact that we have so many fucking books, that's parroting information at that point. We're doing the same thing over and over again. At that point, that's noise. Just because it's presented differently, it's still noise. Masking things with technology, it's still noise. And it's dirty noise. It's not even fucking chi noise. Harmony. Now, there is people in all of that plays a half decent tune, and a lot of us go, hey, we perk up. We're not going to understand. What does it do? No, I'm just using words, like noise. That's the way I use my language. You know, it's not because I'm inventing anything. I'm just using it different ways. Other people use other words. Well, I don't know what that means to me. Okay, then what word would you use? You know, that's for them to figure out. You know, I just give you a possibility. You go into your little room, you go play. Because you don't owe me nothing. You know, talking about war. If enough people talk about it and nobody figures, okay, well, how did it come to be? Let alone where's it going to go? That's noise at that point. It's people just going on and on and on. You know, it'll be water cooler talk. Or in the media, they're talking, oh, yeah, well, the president of the United States or some president, you know, we don't like him. More noise. There now you get those people say, well, when did we allow anybody to rule over us? And should that be more of a collective thing opposed to an individual thing? Well, Dom, I don't believe in collectiveness. I only believe in being an individual. Then why the fuck are you in the city then?
Yeah, it's
At least
a defeatist approach to themselves when they don't want to be a part of the collective, but yet dress like everybody else, try to maintain interests that everybody else is interested in, or adapt to their environmental group that they're associated with. That's, you know, you're doing the same thing with hive-mindedness. A true individual concerns himself not with such things.
mm-hmm.
But we're not in a society that promotes individuality much anymore either.
But then we all can be kind of like preachers / teachers by being the example. So then at least those people have that option. You know, people don't want to be told over and over again what to do, let alone what not to do. But at the same time, who's telling them within themselves? Are you questioning why you're doing it? You know, why do I live in a country that's, some people call it a social system? Then my responsibility is, okay, if I don't really fully understand that, I can at least understand other parameters. What is it? Why do they use the word democracy, Marxism, liberalism, all the different isms? Now, somebody could say, well, Dom, I don't value religion. I said, that's a distraction. I'm talking stay right now. Stay focused. I don't give a shit what degree you have. Stay focused. We're talking about isms right now. Eventually, we could talk about commerce. You know, again, if we're going to be a hive mind, should we work as one? But then to be one, we should be able to break away at any given moment and then question the whole. If not, then what somebody wants to do is they want to be an individual, or the ideal of being an individual, but yet they want their cake and eat it. So how are you going to participate with the whole? Well, I don't want to be like them. I said, that's the fact that you're talking about your likes and dislikes, that's a waste of fucking energy.
That would require you setting an interpretive measure of what that person is.
Mm-hmm.
I go by my own, observation of what I enjoy, what I don't enjoy, what is beneficial, what is not beneficial. I don't, like I said, universal life, earthling, and interpreting observation. And anything further than that, it's probably something that I've picked up along the way as far as observation, or I've heard it on a TV or read it in a book, or, it's been introduced to me through a feed. And now I'm even trying to filter the subconscious feed to keep that from being raped by information that I don't want or isn't beneficial to me.
You know, Access, I rarely share this. Unless one realizes or ponders the possibility, the reason why most people are here is because this is the place where most selfish fucking beings always end up. I play the ideal that I want to be courted to a point where if I'm actually going to give the ideal for myself, hopefully that I'm trying to help other people or share with other people so we can somehow work together, that something that Dami was a fruitless effort in this realm, but we've noticed you because we're in another realm. We work collectively. So we're going to pluck you out. And the ones that turn around and say, but I want to be out of here, I say, no, you're coming back here. Why? Because you're a selfish piece of shit. I don't want to be in this realm. Okay, selfish piece of shit. But are you going to do anything to be of service while you're in this realm? Why? Because the surrounding realms are working collectively. You know, it's not about flesh and blood. Why? Because it's about principalities, the ones that work together, the higher beings. The ones that are talking, saying, well, we're not fighting against flesh and blood, so those are the fucking demons. That's what we are when we're in these forms. It's all about me, me, me. I said, well, then you stay here. You haven't done nothing to fucking earn it. You'll see the bright light, you'll come fucking running back here. Opposed to working together to help your fellow being, regardless if it's a fucking fruitless effort, but it's your intent. It's how you work with your heart. To make it about me and to fucking be clever and manipulate other beings so I can get my more fucking settlement here is a wasted energy for me.
You know, it's
But if I'm gonna
interesting that you use the statements that you've used. Go ahead. I'll
No, those are just my
let you
statements.
know.
Again, Access, I go into the premise I could be full of shit. But again,
Well,
no matter what I do, it could be full of shit. Working for 50 years for a house or whatever, own a business, eventually it could all be it could be fucking worthless at the end. Go ahead, Access.
I took an examination of this place and how it correlated with an individual that I've been speaking to. And I asked him, I said, that Adam and Eve were exiled out of the garden. I saying Cain was exiled even further. I said, Lucifer fell from heaven. Where'd he fall to? Earth. I said, the damned seem to find themselves here on earth.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, there isn't anything here on earth that hasn't been kind of imprisoned here, whether it be Satan, the fallen angels, the Nephilim, you know, those who bear the curse of God and generational curses. I said, what did you do to get here?
Mm-hmm.
You're obviously amongst the damned, the fallen, and the confined.
Mm-hmm.
What did you do to bring yourself here?
I could just be an offspring.
That's one of the conclusions we came to is, you know, you're carrying bad genetics in you. You may have the blood of Nephilim in your DNA and your body. And that could be what's keeping you here is the fact that you can't move on. There's no place for that type of genetics. And 1/3 of your being physically is built of this, you know, line of things that were not ever meant to be. Or maybe you're a part of, you know, the rebellious minded, and you can't go along with the program. So you had to be exiled here because you were a threat elsewhere on a, you know, much more broadened plane of existence, or even more developed. You know, there's something that you did or that is contained within you that would bring you to the realm of the imprisoned and the damned.
That could be. Yeah, I'll move down that axis. Yeah, whether or not I put some effort and realize, okay, so if I am half and half. And there's a part of me, like my father, when people say, my father, whoever that father is, could have been the one that was one of the fallen ones. They didn't no longer wanted to rule and serve it, but they wanted to rule. Okay, so no problem. We'll make Earth very bling bling. We'll make it look very pretty because we're not like humans. We make everything, like we take you away from nature and then put you in some fucking encased little village or whatever and put some prison walls. No, we'll make it all look beautiful because that's what you want, isn't it? You want your comforts. Sure. That's where we become attached. Again, the heart is easy to be tempted. What goes to it? Blood, memory of some sort. What type of blood it is, don't know. And if I did, I'm just going to give like initials A, B, A, my blue blood and my red blood. I give myself stories, like even the ideal of fallen ones based on a story. Could be true, but I can only perceive it as a story. Because then my question was, how would that serve me when I go to work? I question work, why I keep doing the same shit over and over again years ago. And I'm like, okay, for the same rewards, fuck, I've gone insane. Yeah, but tell me you need food. I said, I've done fasting too. And I realized that's a perpetual cycle. And do I really need food? Probably not. The vessel does. That's where it goes. If I truly am half and half, there's a part of me probably doesn't need food. Probably doesn't need shelter.
Well,
Go ahead.
That was my determination. Was I've yet to hear of a story where someone was sent to Earth as a reward, other than the Garden of Eden, and that's the only place that I've even remotely Shangri-La. Eden, these small little places that seem to have exiled us from them and thus thrown us into the realm of the damned and the prison. I don't see it as being you get rewarded with going to Earth, and you're going to spend X amount of years on Earth. Aren't you happy about that? It's a good place to go. No, it's not.
It could be reward. It could be taxes. Again, ward. The word reward. Again, ward. So there you go. You've earned your own imprisonment.
Well, I think that's generally true with the whole mass. Unless you're visiting from some more refined plane, seems to me that this place is nothing but a reserve for everything that has been an abomination or rebellious or conflicting with the nature of how things are supposed to go.
I think access, from my understanding of abomination, is when you're intermixing a species with another one. That's the abomination. Yeah. So what humans were was humans. What were beings or energy beings or whatever we want to call them, other species that were what they were. It's when you mix them together that becomes an abomination now. So they don't have a place to lay their head one way or the other.
Right.
But because they're in the
fallen angels' offspring. And us maybe containing their genetics, we would have to be confined.
And because they impregnated human women, the males, I'm going to assume maybe those entities don't have, because we've been told stories, they don't have any sexting, but let's say they do. So there's a good chance the female, whatever they would call them, hybrids or whatever, they probably went back to where they came from another landmass, and the ones that impregnate the ones here stayed here. This is why when they talk about in their stories, the son shouldn't be punished for the father's mistakes. So, and for them, the ones that came here, and that's why I go with the idea that people like Allah, the I Am, the jealous God, those are the fallen ones. They're probably consciously and they're immortal and they can jump in and out. Hey, you're one of us. So, you take care of the vessel, and when we're ready, we'll jump in one of them. We don't want to go through that whole birthing stage bullshit crap where you have to be a baby and then an adult. No, we'll get a whole bunch of people trying to become athletes, and then the given one will bestow it upon you. We'll jump in that vessel. Hence walk-ins. That's why when people say, when somebody goes on stage, something takes over. Yeah, why the fuck would I want to have to feed the vessel? No, I go in there. It's a treat for me to jump in. I'll use it as a truly, as you use the word, recreational fucking vehicle, and then I'll jump out and you can take care of it. Now, that's me speculating. It's based on a whole bunch of stories that we tell each other. But when I go inwards, I'm saying, yeah, that's a possibility. I always will entertain ideals. It's usually when people say, well, that's the truth. Really? That's the truth. Interesting. So I just met aliens. How the fuck do I explain it to you? Because I tell you stories. Me and Axis saw these aliens, so there's two of us. Yeah, and what did they say? Well, they said humans are fucking idiots. No, that's not true. I said, I'm the one that saw the alien. See the story that we give each other. And then most people will actually defend and attack others based on whatever somebody written on a fucking book. And even that's been changed many different ways. Same with the story of Adam and Eve. There's a good chance that's been manipulated. They might have been giants. And maybe the environment that we were bigger and it was more destructive. So, hey, let's put them in a fucking smaller vessel. Being destructive again now. Let's put them in a robotic vessel.
Which very well could be a means to an end. I mean, especially for something that has no true domain.
No true domain, yes. And then we have to factor in maybe the ages. Maybe when we look up at the signs up there, the distant gods or whatever, they turn around and say, yeah, I know you guys are all down there. And you call it a prison, or you guys can't work your way back to us. So how about we give you this new technology? Because they do talk about the Enki story. That once they came here, they realized the lifespan shortened and they couldn't go back now. That's another story. I've read them. I've listened to them. I'm like, okay, know them. It's like anything else. Maybe we have all these breadcrumbs and we're supposed to gather them all. In the end, we have some shitty fucking piece of bread that we're eating, but at least it's a bread. It's usually when people say they know what the truth is. Okay, here we go. Entertain me. Were you there when you met Jesus? Were you there when you talked to Muhammad? Were you there when you were talking to Moses? Well, no. I said, so how did you get that information? And quickly, I got it in a book. Interesting. It only makes sense because we're in a mortal form. It would have to be pen to paper. But it's the word of God. Could be. It could be. I'm all going to entertain the word of God. We're talking about the breath. It could be. Or could it just be the word of men? Could be. It's one of those could be. I think some of the old guys that used to, understand and try to go inwards, they would say words like perhaps. Perhaps. Yeah, you think the earth is flat? Yeah, perhaps. You think it's a globe? Yeah, perhaps. I need an answer, Dom. I'll go with whatever you say.
Yeah, I had to take I've been examining my environment and kind of doing a really deep introspective dive into what my place in all this is, and understanding me as a living being that's been created. And it's obviously evident to me that I didn't create myself, so I was created. And then I started looking further into why would something this structured be reserved for everything that seems to fuck up or doesn't have a place? It seems to wind up here on Earth, according to many cultures and many histories. Regardless of the creation story, there's always the fuck up that winds up on Earth, or the abomination, that which has been genetically altered with chimera, or whether man has interfered and introduced a new line of genetics into the human genome. And then I had to look and think, what the fuck did I do to get here? What is it? What is it? My genetics? Is it, is it my rebellion? Is it what brought me to the land of the dead and the exile? And now that's a question that I have to present to myself, and to that, that takes a lot of harsh reality and accepting things that you may not want to accept. Thus, you can't lie to yourself in that situation if you truly want to know the truth.
Well, there is the creation story, but I also add for myself, actually, there's the formation story. And those are two different stories for me. Things like this, Sun and the Moon, that's a creation story. Man, or men in this case, that's the formation. We were formed, or this vessel was formed. It's very moral. It's a moral form. But when you put it in light with nature has a growth, death process. It's kind of like looking at a major street where a lot of stores are. This is the metaphor I use for myself. For the person that comes once every couple of months, it's always going to look like it's full. But if you're there regularly, you realize there's stores coming and going all the time, closing and opening. So for us, when we're in these forms, they're coming and going. Who we truly are when we're talking about, I want to live longer, that's who we are. But where the abomination comes is we're thinking, but we want to come back or stay longer in these forms. That's the formation part, in formation. Kind of gives it away. But the creation part is the essence. We're the essence to the things, hence the living beings in all forms. Some of us come in other forms, a tree, a pet, an animal, insects. Again, most people say, yeah, but they're not intelligent. I said, you're putting way too much fucking emphasis on a fucking down process called intelligence. Unless you really want to gather all together and we all work as a species and say, oh, we finally get now how the clouds work. Oh, we finally get actually how chi works. Opposed to all of us, dividing each other with all our different ideals and then saying, well, then that's the answer. This is where the concept of truth comes in now. Will it truly set you free here? Why? Because we have so many fucking attachments here. People even become to the ideal that, I know the truth. What is truth? What is love? What is energy? We're using words to describe things, but once you realize no longer getting in, trying to accept it, to see it for what it is, then we can actually say, well, what's the essence to things? Opposed to just trying to figure out what things are. And then eventually you can say, okay, then I'm in it. Been it the whole time. How does it serve? How does it serve that I want to live longer in a vessel that clearly shows it's mortal? Yeah, but Dom, I want to live to 120. I said, yeah, you're self-absorbed. It only makes sense you want to live longer than everybody else. Well, I don't give a shit about anybody else. Well, then how would you know that you'd want to live longer? Did you ever get diseased? Well, no. So then how would you know that? Because you compare yourself to somebody else. The ones that probably live longer and healthy, they probably don't gauge themselves based on anybody else. They might ask questions. Why do you eat the food the way you do it? Well, it's no different. I'm receptive to somebody asking me why do I eat the food that I do. But I do pick up the energy when somebody says, "Hold on," but I don't agree with vegetarian. So then why are you asking me why I'm a vegetarian? Wouldn't it be better for you to tell me why you're a meat eater? Because then I can ask you questions. Why do you eat domestic game or wild game? Because those are the kind of questions I'd be receptive to. But most people only ask questions because either it serves them in some way, they have an agenda for it, or they want to make fun of it. I said, well, making fun of it just means that you're trying to defend something. And I don't have fucking that energy to waste telling some fucking adult that you're a fucking idiot and you're a child to boot. And I only say that because I want to see whether or not their emotions are even developed. Why? Because I'm being the idiot right now, and I don't mind playing that game. Because I don't want somebody else to call me an idiot when I know I choose to call myself the idiot. Well, that's kind of harsh, though. Really? Have you ever said that to yourself? You ever had that freedom of knowing you can call yourself whatever the fuck you want, and you should be okay with it?
That's guess that's kind of a part of the path that led me to the that silent me, the one that just sits in silent and observes, that's just beyond the subconscious. It doesn't direct. It doesn't even necessarily influence. It is just the silent observer. And the subconscious is where a lot of my concern for information in, information out, how much of that is being fed to me against my will, and is really pretty much just useless noise that will occupy my subconscious and maybe come out in an action or a dream or a thought that really wasn't mine to begin with. Had nothing to do with me. It was just introduced to the subconscious and then brought to the conscious state through the subconscious. And developing that filter to keep that information out requires constant observation of information, what you're being fed. And to keep up with that is state. You may be able to retain states of that for short periods of time, but you're going to hear a car horn, you're going to hear a bird, you're going to hear maybe even the wind blow, and those are all potentials to distract you from information that could sneak into the subconscious. And I'm just trying to build a condition, a filter that will discard forced information, so that the observer kind of in its state of silence assists maybe somehow with filtering or creating some type of protocol that doesn't allow certain types of information to become residual in the subconscious. Because I believe that most of these people they call, even if they're on autopilot, they're working off of a feed of information. And that feed of information is a subconscious feed. And then it's brought to the conscious level to be acted out or acted upon. And then you have the other end of the spectrum where it's just observed. But I believe in between that receptive state and the transmission state that you can filter. um, the useless amounts of information that they flood us with on a constant basis. I
Well,
think
at that
there's peace there.
point, access discernment needs to be applied. So, from my experience, for me, when I had those glimpses of those moments, some people might call it a virus or some sort of kernel or something, computer term, but
Yeah.
I kept observing it and I'm like, oh, and then I started hearing myself saying, because I like to play with words. And I say that now, but before I didn't realize that's what I was doing. So don't argue the vessel. So I play with words. Okay, I am. Okay, so you say that I am. So then who's speaking? Well, so then I say, well, I'm not the vessel. Okay, so you're not the vessel. So then are you the age? Well, no, then. Are you the thoughts? Well, no. So I'm chipping away now. I'm not trying to delete any programs. I'm actually trying to entertain different types of programs now. Now, people use the term you fake it till you make it kind of deal. So now, as I'm entertaining those things, I'm like, okay, where people might have that moment, yeah, I had a tough time in traffic. I don't like my job. But that's such a fleeting moment for them that never grows legs. They think it's some sort of romantic gesture. Oh, I hope I win the lottery ticket. I said, do you see how you're reinforcing the fact that you're not really addressing why did you say you don't like your job? It's not about, well, Dom, I just don't like my job. I said, but why did you say that? What's that silent part of you trying to convey messages with you? And then this is where you start chipping away at it, meaning that you're going to put something else to oppose something else, or you realize it's not even an opposing thing. It's just you've never challenged it before. But people will spend an enormous amount of time and energy, can't say time, but energy, challenging others. I'm like, okay, so your waking state program is going to argue with their waking state program. Your sleeping state program, in this case, your subconscious, is what? It's not going to attack another subconscious. And then once you realize, it's kind of metaphorically like the computer, you've been playing with this, the ongoing and the hard drive of your computer. What's the source that fuels it? What's the electricity? What's the Wi-Fi? What's the air? What's the light? I'm using just words, no different how we've been indoctrinated to say the word computer or iPhone or Microsoft or car or tree. Those are all indoctrinations. But once you start playing with words, I'm like, fuck, I'm really challenging the program. Yes, you're challenging the program with the program. And it's like anything else. People that, talk about, oh, that person's going out into the wilderness, they're talking to demons or angels, and, they're going to go gather a whole bunch of chicken feeds and all that. Meanwhile, the demons are fucking giggling. Said, oh, just give him whatever he wants. I want to see if he's loyal. I want to see if he's persistent. You don't want to give information about the unknown to a guy that just reads the fucking Bible a couple of times, or he went to university for a couple of years. Even the ones that start doing fucking weed and all that, I said, you're cheating now. What do you mean? You're trying to get into a state that you can't fucking maintain. This is a journey. You might have to give up a whole bunch of shit. You might be resisted by a whole bunch of other people saying, well, Dominic, I don't like the way that you've told me to be a vegetarian. I could do whatever the fuck I want. Whoever told you otherwise? I'm not affecting anybody else. Well, Dominic, are you choosing a certain diet because you don't want to hurt animals? That has fuck all to do with the equation. But you know something? You're telling me your story. So why don't you share your story? And that's what most people do. They tell me their story. They're not ever asking me, why did I choose to do that? And then I read their energy and I'm like, oh, you truly want to grow? Yes, because I don't want to hear the fuck that you've read the fucking Bible. Don't get the fuck out of my face. Read the Quran, get the fuck out of my face. You read the Buddha Key, get the fuck out of my face. What did you learn from reading that shit? What teachings did you get from that? And quickly they resolve. Well, I know Jesus, again, get out of the fuck out of my face. I don't give a shit about that person's fucking name. What teachings did you get for you? You don't even have to tell me that story. We say it openly, Access. It is a self journey from within.
Yeah.
Now, we could energetically be interconnected with other people, but as long as we're in that half and half, we're still in that mortal fucking form, we got to play that illusional game. Play that I'm actually thinking I'm outside. How much do we violate another fucking being when they're in a form? And we're going to what? Kill them? No, that's not my responsibility. But people will gladly fight for somebody else. Well, my country, no, you're a fucking idiot. Get the fuck out of here. You wasted 30, 40, 50 years of your fucking existence in this fucking plane, in that fucking vessel. And if your parents told you otherwise, they failed you fucking miserably. Why? Because it's not even their responsibility to tell that story. I'm being the idiot by telling this shit. You know, revolution. Who's going to revolt? Challenge the self. Challenge the program. Challenge the word. Instead of saying self-aware, say the word aware of self. Say it enough times to say, fuck, there is a shift. It's like, isn't that the whole idea of magic? How you play with words? The tonality, the intent? Well, Dom, I don't believe in
It's a big
magic.
part of the influence, yeah.
But then you hear people, oh, Dom, I don't believe in that shit. I say, well, first of all, I don't give a shit about shit. The belief system, forget about bullshit. Belief system. Where did you get that fucking indoctrination? I'm not saying it's right or wrong. I'm just saying with the very emphasis word, because I like to leave that little thing that just, I don't want it to go down sweet. I want it to go down fucking bitter initially. Now, this is me talking to me now. I'm just talking out loud. No job can replace that. No financial success or some fucking what? I flew my drone. That just makes me more fascinated. Where are we getting all this technology from? I'm fascinated with the fact that somebody's going to operate on my dad tomorrow. That I had to learn how to be a surgeon. I find that fascinating. Now, can it be used for harm and good? Probably. That's not for me to judge. I just find the whole concept fascinating.
That holds a lot of relevance to kind of what I've been endeavoring into. The thing was, Dom, is whenever I'm trying to apply forward development of self through information, I want to make sure that I check myself all the time, because I may be held fully responsible and accountable for everything that I say to this person, which I truly believe the things that you say, you're going to be held accountable for, especially when you're trying to, lay them to another person. You're taking on some type of universal responsibility by trying to show someone or teach someone. And I really had to check, my checks and balances before I would relay information to this person. And I still am. And as I'm doing this, I'm keeping a real close observation of myself and being within the moment and trying to feel how far they can go and not break them, but also be sure that what I'm saying is universally correct. Kind of like an apple tree. What I'm saying is useful food to help you develop in the direction you're going, and it be beneficial to you during your endeavors, instead of me just filling you full of stories of my life events or the cause and effects and outcomes of things that I've been involved in. And so far, Dom, I'm pretty content with the result. As a matter of fact, it almost gave me a reason to want to see the next day. I was waiting for them to break or snap, or to come back with "I can't handle anymore," or I don't want to know anymore," or, "We need to take a break. Let's stop." No, once they've taken the information and they have examined it and put it to the trial by fire, they come right back, ready for the next bout of information. And that's been keeping me having to filter myself, and it's been a sharing experience, definitely. But it's been, I hate to say rewarding, maybe for the sake of people can still teach each other and learn from each other. There's a reward in knowing that still exists to a little bit more broad spectrum. But it's just been massively fascinating to me to see this transpire, and this information exchange that's going on, kind of like what we do, and seeing the outcome and it being beyond expectation. That almost makes you want to live to see another day.
Yeah. And then that's probably how it serves you, because there is concept of a healthy attachment, and it should follow suit with a healthy resistance. Some people want more of an attachment, so it's not really healthy at that point, or they spend an enormous amount of time resisting things. Healthy of balance. Think about resistance does develop muscles, so therefore resistance must develop other things too. Attachments is more or less more of a maintenance. So if you're attached to something, you'll put a little bit of effort of maintaining it. So it would be natural. You can't say natural. It would benefit the person if there was a little resistance. If not, then you should be questioning it. So this is way too smooth, and they're going to have like a big down when they get a little bit of a pushback, and vice versa. Somebody that wants to resist everything, I said, there's not a healthy attachment in there. You're attached to resisting everything. I said, how does that serve you at that point? It's a question. It's not me telling them it's wrong. I'm just asking them a question. It's not for me to judge them. I'm just asking questions. I'm clever enough to know that. For other people, they're not.
Well, I will tell you what I've discovered is when you find a human that you can go to the bare naked core of self, and they're willing to continue to discover that within themselves and you are willing to discover that within them as well as yourself, man, that's a whole new level of communication.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe I just missed that or had forgotten what that state of honesty and development is, but You know, I've had you, and then I have Kelly, and those are the two primary sources of my communication outside of, I don't communicate with other people except superficially and passive, you know, and I try not to make it in depth anymore, because I understand the intimacy behind sharing on that level, and it's not for everybody, and it's definitely not for those who can't hold themselves mentally, spiritually, or even socially mature. And it's just refreshing to see that and experience it.
You've shared openly, Access. You've had, in my interpretation of the words I'm going to use, variations of diets, how you've lived. You've lived like a nomad. You've lived touring, and now you're living a way where you're probably isolated more than you're probably used to, but yet you're meeting a couple of people and you're enjoying the conversations and you're expressing yourself. And it sounds like you met an individual that you can help, hopefully for them, expand. And you have a lot to offer. You know, it's like usually the person that has a lot to offer usually the ones that are lonely. You know, they're not alone, but they're probably lonely because the majority of people are so busy trying to just fit in, but they never question, but what am I trying to fit in? And to what? You know I've struggled with that.
Yeah, I think you hit it right on. There is a loneliness that comes with this, but you know, that's kind of, whether it's intentional or universal, been an ongoing issue in my life. You know, not that it's an issue, it's been a struggle being lonely sometimes, but I've gotten very used to my own company. And I've refined it to where, you know, I can even endeavor on that. I'm content and inspired with like Kelly and you, and being able to reach these points of communication and sharing that. To me, that the exposing of, you know, the self, that takes such a maturity level, such a level of conscious maturity, spiritual maturity, physical maturity, social maturity. I mean, you really got to be a dignant person to endeavor and to even further than where we've gone.
It's a lot of effort. You know, it's like I'm in the analogy of when people bodybuild, you have to do certain types of resistance training. You can't be doing legs all the time. And it's the same thing even when you're talking about spiritual or you're just using your intellect. You know, you can't be doing the same resistance of the same topic over and over again. You have to explore into different areas, whether you want to talk about theosophy, magic, you want to talk about spiritual stuff, you want to talk about religion and state. You know, it wouldn't serve somebody to say, well, I really want to have an overall body, but I don't really like doing legs. That's what people do when they say, I just don't want to talk about religion, or I attack it. I said, at that point, you're not grounding yourself. What's behind religion is human beings that participate in it. It's not for us to judge, but people are so quick to say it's right or wrong. I said, but then you're judging at that point. You know, whether it's religion or state, you can entertain the idea and say, okay, state favors me. I said, but you're in it, so at least try to understand as best as you can. And the ones that are ruling it, and if you find out that the Luciferians are satanic, you should at least understand what satanic means. Why? Because they're the ones that are ruling. Yeah, but I don't agree with it. I'm like, again, you've judged it way too soon with lack of information. You know, again, it's an emphasis I tell when I do share this information, not with you, Access, because you're quite aware of things. So I'm just, me and you're like two rescue dogs playing with other people. You know, it's like we don't have to rescue each other or But when I do hear information come from you, I know enough to note it. Where other people figure, well, I should be challenged them. I said, does Axis want to be your teacher? Maybe you should ask them. Most people don't want to be students, but they so gladly want to be teachers. I said, who's to say that you'll ever be the teacher then, if you don't know what it is to be a student? Same like being a follower, a leader. To be a true good leader, you have to know how to follow within oneself. It's not following others. They can be the example. That's where the concept of teachings come in. They can be the example both in speech and in action, if that's important for somebody to balance themselves. I'm not always that way, but for some people, can't say most people, they want either one or the other. The ones that can do both, or if not more, well done. I can at least admire them from a distance and say, well done. I'm not an envious person, so that's why I can admire them. Most people cannot be truly happy for other people when they're unaware that they're envious of others. And if they're envious of their accomplishments or what you perceive, or in this case, they perceive that they can get from their gains. There is a lot of lack of empathy, even among the communities that I've roamed. There is really a lack of empathy. Now, people say, but I'm empathetic. I said, no, your energy doesn't read that way. It reads you only here because you're bored, you're lonely. If given the opportunity to have enough money that you're earning or a responsibility of taking kids, you wouldn't be here. So you're surely not here to help the betterment of humanity, let alone the species that run behind them in humanity. Now, they might think I'm full of shit, and I said, that's okay, but have you ever challenged yourself? Don't worry about me. I'll openly say about me.
They'll challenge themselves to the point where they still feel comfortable. It's when you challenge yourself beyond the point of comfort. That's where bodybuilders start to develop a core strength or muscle development and strength.
Mm-hmm.
Same with the mind. As long as you stay within that comfort zone of your own resistance, then it's not really doing anything but sustain in that one area.
You've said it, Access.
But no, please.
Well, you said it, and I've heard it, and I've noted it, and I realized where my shortcoming in, where you say, unless you give something 100%, then you're not really giving it. So if a person's going to be full of shit, give it 100%. If you're going to truly value the concept of truth, give it 100%. Why spend a fraction of it trying to defend it? Either you're working with it and you're being led by it, or you're too busy playing the game with the self and masking or rating it by thinking it's God, which it could be. Maybe the gods are everywhere here. But why would that be a concern, having that conversation with a whole bunch of people that don't value that stuff? That at that point, people are trying to fit a square into a circle and vice versa, or any other shape. Especially when you're in a group of people. It'd be different if it's just a couple of people, or it's a private setting. But when there's like 20, 30 people, in this case, like communities or at a restaurant, you're going to get the obnoxious psychopath or charismatic person going on, and everybody else is just going to be entertained by them. But yet, learn nothing from it. Outside, it's just more entertainment. The noisy guy over there, the one that's calling everybody an idiot. Does he call himself an idiot? Well, no. Well, then he's not really aware. Now, I'm not saying people should have to call anybody anything, but people quickly will give themselves the label, I'm sharing the truth. Really? So is that the label you're giving yourself? I work for God. I work for Lucifer. Okay. Is there a union that I can join? I'm joking now, actually, because I would never say that openly to people that value that stuff, because I realize that's just me being a clever little twit. But in my mind, I might be thinking, okay.
I think the bare, raw nature without all the compiled idealism and suggestion is kind of what I'm trying to get a feel for. It's like being naked in front of a diverse crowd of people, and dealing with the humility, dealing with what you may consider to be shame or any number of applied things that you could put to that. But when you come to the understanding that you're bearing your naked self, and the shame is theirs, not yours. Shame on you for not being able to handle this situation. And I'm just using naked on stage as a metaphor for anything. Maybe it's something you endeavor in, that really isn't bothering nobody, doesn't hurt anybody. But because other people aren't used to that or haven't been subjected to it as being common, they want to shame you for it. But it's not really you who should feel ashamed, because it's just a part of who you are and what you are at that moment. It's them trying to make you feel shame, and I'm trying to separate myself from or having discernment between what I'm bringing on myself and what other people are applying to me and expecting me to take on. Dealing with raw, pure observation of where the root of the things that I feel or experience with any type of emotion comes from, and is it valid?
Well, I think access behind every one side of I'm trying to use the analogy here, maybe string. There's always the other side of it. So what comes with shame sometimes can come in a form of pride. I don't think some other words. It's just the opposite in this case. The attachments that we form, and then we have the resistance. So, like I said pride. Pride is one of them. Praise is another form of pride. So people will probably try to neglect or avoid what they might think that they resist, which obviously will be can constantly persistent. But what they're really not trying to address is their attachments. So when somebody says, I'm proud of my kids, I said, well, then you're also setting up that you're eventually going to be ashamed of your kids. Oh, I would never do that. I said, well, you openly admit that you're proud of your kids. So why would it be no other way? Why would it? I think otherwise that it wouldn't be the other way too. I'm different that way.
Circumstances.
Mm-hmm. Right. Under the right circumstances, they probably would. They might not say it out loud. I said, but once again, we're talking about energy here. We're not just talking about just because you finally reveal yourself physically. What you manifest physically is one thing, but what's actually your intent? What's the energy that drives all of that? What's the essence to things? So again, unless people want to play that duality game, play it somewhat fair. If not, then people are going to, drive around with a bike with a wobbly wheel. Your front wheel's wobbly. Why? Because you're too busy emphasizing on your back wheel, and vice versa. Well, then I'll just do a unicycle. Okay, and I guess you're going to be one of those one-legged people walking around in the world, seeing what you want to see, and walk to where you want to walk with one leg and see with one eye, which is fine. That's why when I hear people, like even on the communities and a lot of times on the panel, I don't really hear people truly trying to challenge themselves, let alone do people even give the other person the space to challenge themselves. They'll gladly give the space for somebody to rip into another person, use the foul names and challenge their belief systems and their knowledge. I said, but I don't hear you challenging yourself.
Right. Yeah, it's a deeper look at this. Is like getting naked in front of someone that you're about to have intercourse with. You know, do you hide your body in shame or reserve, or do you, confidently shed your clothes and bare your nakedness before you engage? I mean, and then which part of that, whether you find shame or confidence, affects how you conduct yourself.
True.
And not only that engagement, but everyday engagement.
That's challenging. That's that pattern. But yeah, a lot of times people will be in that analogy. Somebody's shameful of what they think they look like, but yet they'll be driven by their feelings. But I still want to have sex. In this case, you're using the term intercourse, or even when people interact with each other with verbal conversations, they'll hide their shame and how they truly think, but yet how they feel. They'll actually go out and say, well, they'll say name calling, denounce somebody else, but then it perpetuates shame again. So they're fueling it regularly, over and over again, as opposed to feel comfortable in your skin. If you truly are okay knowing that, yeah, I'm an idiot, that's not, well, then speak it openly. Now, when somebody says, well, I want to speak openly about other people, I said, you need to have that conversation with them first, because not everybody's suited that they want to have somebody ripping a hole in them in a public platform. Privately, they might be okay with that. But for most people, the tendency being ridiculed or denounced in a public platform is your ego has to come and defend its honor. For most people, the other ones that keep quiet, either A, they're numb or they're vengeful. Would you rather have those two?
Yeah.
A boss that rips somebody a hole publicly in front of his work colleagues is looking for trouble. Do it privately. The person might be bang on in the ripping, it might be way off, but at least the person can respect you and say, but you told me it privately. You do that same fucking shit publicly and you do it in my house, you're going to get more than just a fucking ass kicking. You're going to get yourself fucking taped upside down and maybe a couple of fucking parts are going to be missing. Now, they might turn out some a big badass and say, you don't know, I'm going to do it when you're fucking asleep.
Everybody's a badass.
Well, especially the ones that, I'm playing games here, actually, but especially the ones that know how to do it energetically.
Yeah, well, that's what I was kind of laughing at is, everybody's the badass. Well, if everybody's the badass, then who's the one that's taking all the beating?
Go with the sore ass. That'll be me. That's what I know. I don't mind having this kind of talks, but I know more times I'm just joking because, how does it serve in that case? Now, the ones that want to be the badass, okay, fine, be the badass, but show respect to the people that you're trying to do it with. And if you want to have a public conversation, at least give a chance for everybody else to clear the room. Why? Because if I go to a restaurant and I hear a bunch of guys fucking yapping, I already know what I'm going to do. I'm not going to be that kind of guy that's going to get in their face. I'm going to leave. But I might mention to the owner of the restaurant, you've lost a customer now. Because it's your responsibility to deal with this. This goes back to the host. When the person's hosting, in this case, the channel or whatever, the onus is on them, not everybody else. It's like to be the owner of your own house. Other people start disturbing it, doing it, get the fuck out of my house. That other person might be a badass. I said, tell me when you're done because you're still getting out of my house.
Yeah, it's a whole new spectrum of communication whenever you get past the the cause and effect of your idiosyncratic hang-ups or your shames or whatever, and you understand that there should be no shame in the first place. You know, as long as it's a mature approach to something. I mean, if you're up there naked and you're grabbing your balls, shaking them at the crowd, then I'm going to question probably why you're doing that. I'm not going to take it probably as serious, but just to be bare naked, even in front of, like I said, someone you're getting ready to have intercourse with, there's a type of maturity, and that getting past that shame that you feel to develop that sense of maturity and proceed forward with that confidence is a whole new language. And it's one that doesn't have much reserve to it. There's nothing to hide.
Mm-hmm. You would hope so, but again, this is, I guess, part of our programs. Some of us haven't been taught a lot of this stuff, or just seen the example. You know, the example could be just you put the energy with the action. You know, that why do you do what you do? Boss, why do you do what you do? You know, and then hopefully you're around somebody, or at least they can guide you towards something that can put it in words. You know, because not everybody's designed to make sense of things with words. Some people figures, you know, I go through life by just watching people do things, or other people say, but no, I need explanations. You know, and then we bombard ourselves. You know, shame can come in the form of some people feel shameful because they've done financially well for themselves, and nobody's ever explained to them. I said, okay, so is the onus on you, or other people just haven't chosen to do their own part? It could even be their upbringing. So then again, this is where we start dividing ourselves again as a race. We have rich and poor. We have people that are wealthy financially and mentally, and vice versa.
Yeah, and did someone try and make you feel ashamed for being rich?
Yeah. You know, and usually that's because a person that's poor, they felt shame, thinking that would life be different if I was rich. Don't know. I really don't know. I can only base on some of the effects that I think I see. Oh, this person's living a lavish lifestyle, but do you know what it takes to maintain that lifestyle? Don't know. And again, that goes with the question. But if you did know, how would you apply that? You know, what wisdom would you apply? You know, it's like people look at, you know, they might hear about your career. Oh, you were in the music industry, Axis. Oh, that must have been amazing. Yeah, it was amazing. All those times we spent all that time on the bus, and, you know, and the groupies and all that. Again, we put a lot of assumptions. Some of it could be valid, but a lot of it's probably just we're using our imagination to fill in. And meanwhile, the person that said, I've lived it, and it's not exactly the way you guys think it is.
Yeah, it's over glamorized, that's for damn sure. And it's
Sure.
definitely not looked at as a business, which is what it is.
Mhm.
It's a fucking business. No matter how you want to approach it, once you get past playing bars and having fun, you know that there's definitely access to hedonism and perks and fringe benefits that you answer for that, and it is a business, and it's over glamorized.
Yeah. This goes to foreigners. You know, the American way of living, not the people that live there, but the ones that promote it. They sell the ideal of the land of the free. So now they promote that into other countries. To make sure that they stay, you know, numb, so we can go there and take all your stuff. But eventually there's enough people that live in those types of the world that say, I want to go to America, because they've been sold a glamorized version of what they think America is, until they actually come here and says, no, this is not what I was sold. And then they realize the people that live there, they're not the ones that were trying to sell the ideal. They weren't even the ones that are trying to denounce you for coming here. They're the ones like everybody else. It's like the guy that sells you something. Now you're in the back of the list. That same person's trying to sell to somebody else. The ones that run the music industry is like the ones that run the country. They're not the ones that are in the trenches.
No.
Everything else, they're the ones that are paying the people to promote. Yeah, come watch the show. Don't worry about if it's shitty or good. And it's the same people that are promoting to come to America. The ones that are allowing or making the rules for foreigners to come to, in this case, the country of America, probably don't even live in the country. So
no, I
it's a
would
puppy
say
mill.
this has been a world, a unified, world unified decision for this to transpire.
Yep. It's the globalization. This is what they've been talking about for 20, 30 years, if not longer. They're 15-minute cities. They've already created a lot of those cities in China. But the people that do globalization do not see China, India, America. They just see pegs on a map. It's us that have been conditioned, because there's another program running. Well, I'm Canadian. I said only because you value the concept, because you keep saying it over and over again. And they show you a fucking map and there's a body of water around you. That doesn't make me Canadian. No different does it make me America because I step on fucking a soil that other people call America. That's part of the indoctrination.
Yeah.
Now, I can treat it like it's part of the game. It's how I treat it. No different. Somebody says, well, I'm in a vessel. I'm trapped. I said, well, then how do you reinforce it? By thinking you're American, thinking you're Canadian, thinking you're 20 years old, thinking that you're Illuminati, thinking that you're awake, you're thinking you're a plumber. Those are all the indoctrination. It's like a person trying to be free, but meanwhile, they're enslaving themselves, because that's the same hand that's actually keeping the door closed on themselves. If that's even what it really is, that could just be another story that people tell, and I'm just fucking parroting it. It's challenging to think that I'm living in an imprisoned place, but yet I'm accepting or wanting more of my bling bling. I want more of this, I want more of that. I said, you're what's the word? You're hitting your hand despite your face. It's a term like that anyway. But what I'm really doing is I'm saying one thing, but I'm doing the other thing. Unless I realize that this is what it is, and I've chosen to be in this game, doesn't mean I accept it, let alone do I need to tolerate it. I'm in a system, the vessel needs to be fueled. I'm in a system that I'm not going to, at this point in my life, learn how to grow my own food. So I'm going to go to the grocery store. Who am I to tell the grocery store to change their way of doing business? When I become aware, it's about location for them. It's about profits. It's not about fucking giving me healthy food, because then they can go to me and say, Dom, when are you going to actually start growing your own food? Well, I don't want to do that. I said, well, then I'm going to say the same thing. I'm not interested in telling you healthy fucking food. But yet that's the child that's telling their parents, I don't agree with your system. So let me understand this, son. You're going to move out of my house where we have the washer and dryer here and we don't have it fucking coin operated, and you're going to live under somebody else's roof. Well, but that I'll be independent. I said, that's an illusion, son. Whoever told you otherwise is full of shit. You might be able to be interdependent with nature and maybe humanity, but where do you see that? Most people are building cars and houses for each other, not because they give a shit about their community. They're doing it because they want to work for the same buck that I'm working for.
Yeah, money.
And if it's not money, they get that out of circulation. Yeah, come down to the store and we'll give you some physical, sexual satisfaction, and we'll give you some food. We'll see how quickly money gets fucking put out of the way. Oh, how about we do this?
Oh, the other currency.
Bingo. There you go. You want a bottle of water? Why? Because if you complain about a bottle of water, we'll give you contaminated air where you live. See how quickly we'll quickly say, okay, sorry, master. No, we don't even want to be called master. We just want to hear you guys call yourself slaves. It's like, I think for some reason other people say, oh, they're my master. No, they want you to call him Lord. We want to be rulers here. Oh, okay. If a person's willing to entertain all those different ideals. Not everybody's designed to do that. Actually, not like No different. Not everybody's able to entertain white and black magic. They're just not.
Right.
No different. It's just everybody has their ability, and hopefully other people can at least respect them. Because if you respect somebody else's ideal, you might have an offspring and say, Dad, I'm glad you didn't denounce that guy. Why? Because you didn't understand it, but I understand what he's talking about. This is how parents fuck up their generations of kids by thinking because it has to go through their little fucking weak ass little fucking eyes. Meanwhile, you never know who you're entertaining. And down the road, that child might turn around and say, Dad, I'm very grateful that you were nice to Axis and Dom White because the shit that they talk about, I understand. And no different me and you, if we had kids. The guy there, I'm glad I didn't denounce him being a construction worker. Why? Because my kid says he wants to be a construction worker. It's usually the idiot that says, well, in my household, no, fuck off. You've done fuck all in your household. You didn't build it. You didn't build the fucking road that goes to it. You didn't build the electrical line. What the fuck have you done? You done fuck all. And if people are honest with themselves, at least we can all go back to the same equal plane. And then we can start finding out each other's crap. Yeah, guys, got to be careful. Why? Because the signs are saying in the next 4 years, we're going to have fucking famine. Oh, okay. So what should we do? Well, these guys have already talked to them about it. They're going to start growing crops. Why? Because these are the kind of crops that are going to be actually harvested within the next couple of years. Yeah. Axis, I apologize. If you want to continue, I'll hear you from the chat. I need to get a little sleep because, tomorrow my dad.
Yeah, I just wanted to let you know, Dom, that I am absolutely amazed and content with a more clarified state of communication with not only myself but with others, and that this is a work in progress, and the development that comes along with that, I hope it's mutually shared with some others besides just you and Kelly. I mean, there's such it is a very comfortable and serene place to be because it's not distorted with a lot of confusion.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost just speaking with the pure nature of what something is instead of the interpretation or whatever you might derive from it. It's really a neat state, and hopefully, if we do some more live streams, I can get this across a lot better because I would love to share this with everyone.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're well spoken, Axis. I usually just rant a little bit, and I'm not probably the norm, but you have the ability to share, from my interpretation, information that you have shared, whether people can comprehend it. When you do find those ones that, and it sounds like even hopefully this lady Kelly is able to it, that's where you become better in sharing that information. Because a lot of times sharing information, whether it's a character like me that has a little bit of ranting going on, or other people that's above their scope, it becomes more challenging for the ones that, for yourself, because you have way more to offer than most people are willing to receive. But the ones that are able to receive, then it's something you probably really truly enjoy.
It's a wonderful feeling sharing mutually. Yes, Dom. And clearly. So thank you for showing up. Thank you for being, as usual, Dom, you are appreciated, heard, and well received.
Thank you, Access. Same here for you, Access. And anytime, that Access. And I literally say anytime.
Yes, and my best to you and your family.
Thank you. I appreciate that, Access. And always back to you. Thank you, my friend.
Yes. You guys in the chat have a great night. Dom, thank you. And this has been another wonderful endeavor. I appreciate everybody who's listened and will be listening in the future. And I hope that maybe this aids in a little bit of your self-development. Access out.